guys, just so you know, this is the dirt bike that I'm giving away to one lucky viewer for the price of a t-shirt. Go over to my website, dirtbikechannel.com/win-my-dirt-bike to find out how to win this thing.
You get a little bit of variety here. You get some wide open flowy stuff. You cross the creek a bunch of times. You're up in the aspen trees, and then as you get further down, you'll find some pine trees, and just a fun trail to rip on. I remember last year I took the Yamaha YZ250X on this trail, and I was just like, it was where I freaking fell in love with that bike. It just did everything right to me. Such a joy. And this bike is also very good. So I've got Logan with me today, and he's just barely getting started in dirt bikes. He's riding a Honda CRF 250X. Sam's actually on that bike right now behind me, and Logan is on the Beta. We put him on the Beta 300. I actually screwed the power valve, the exhaust power valve, back into the exact spec where it was when the bike was sent to me, because I wanted to get his impression of the bike in the stock setup. And so he rode it for 5 minutes, and then I stopped back there and I said, "So what do you think?" And he said, the first thing out of his mouth, he goes, "What's with all the vibration?" And I'm like, "It's a two-stroke, buddy," because it vibrates obviously a lot more than his four-stroke. It doesn't vibrate a lot. It doesn't bother me, but that was the first thing that came out of his mouth. So once he's had a chance to ride over here, or ride down here for a few more minutes, 20 minutes, I'll get his impressions on the bike. Hopefully he does okay here, because this is off camber, and for some guys that can worry them, get them thinking about sliding down the hill instead of staying up on the hill. So this will be interesting to see how he does. You know, one of the things that Beta says about this, their tagline, is rideability, and they do kind of have that nailed, because in its stock form, that bike is a lot more rideable as far as just easygoing and rideability than a lot of the other bikes that we've ridden. The way the suspension is set up, the way that the motor is set up, that bike is very rideable right from the get-go. Not that some of these other bikes aren't, but if their tagline is rideability, that's straight out of the box. That's kind of what they're hitting on. Now I'm chasing Sam and Logan. Logan is right in front of me on the Beta. Sam's grabbed Logan's bike, that Honda 250 CRF 250X. So Sam's leading the charge now. And I'll tell you what, the Beta, it's kind of interesting, because the Honda CRF 250X is straight up a trail bike, just a trail bike totally. This Beta is certainly more punchy and a lot more racy and more capable all around than that Honda. But the Beta, just the suspension isn't as go fast as this Sherco is. So that Beta it's a great bike, and it's kind of out on a limb, in my opinion, because this thing is a straight up enduro racing bike. It's ready to go hard or go home, and I really love it. The motor on that Beta is really nice. Once you've adjusted I mean, you can run it soft like I have it right now for Logan, or you can run it hard where it's just like ready to blast. But the suspension and the frame, it just feels a little bit shorter. Obviously it is. And everything's just a little bit softer on that bike. And so it's like a really aggressive trail bike. I wouldn't call that one a race bike, which is fair to say because they have a race edition of it, which I have not yet ridden. So this bike is really kind of special because the one I'm talking about, the Beta up there, because it's not just a straight up, you know, your grandpa's trail bike, because it's really aggressive. But at the same time, it's not quite fair to pit that 300RR against like a KTM 300XC or even this Sherco 300 SER. It's just made for a slightly slower purpose. Does great in the gnarly stuff. It's got good bottom end. I now think it's got a little bit maybe more bottom end than this Sherco, but the Sherco revs out a little bit more freely, in my opinion. So both of these bikes are really good. Just, you know, made for different purposes a little bit, and for different riders. But I think for someone who isn't as seasoned in their skills, a newer rider, or someone who is seasoned, maybe a vet rider or a shorter rider, they are going to feel incredibly comfortable on that Beta in front of me, and I say that's a great thing. So it's filling a niche in the market that a lot of these other bikes just aren't filling, and I say kudos to Beta. It's a solid bike. It isn't exactly the bike I want to ride as my primary bike, but I can't beat up on it too much because it's made for a slightly different purpose for a slightly different rider than me. And it'll be fun if I can get around to it, and if it happens, to eventually try the race edition and just see what nuances they have on that bike, and then compare it to some, you know, as compared to some of these other little bit more race inspired bikes. So Logan, you've ridden that bike, that 300RR, for about, I don't know, 10 minutes. What do you think?
It's so much fun. Oh my gosh. The power, the responsiveness, it feels light. It feels a lot lighter than my bike, that's for sure. We
haven't weighed your bike, the CRF. We're gonna have to do that.
It feels easier to control. I don't know if light's the right word, but it's definitely on the bike. I feel like I have control where the bike's going, where occasionally with mine it'll get away from me. It just kind of moves a little bit more than I want it to. Where with this one, even when I lost it in the water a couple times, I still pulled it out without more than one or 2 foot down. You know? Yeah,
you looked comfortable because I was trying to stay far enough back I didn't get splashed, but had you in the frame. What do you think of the power?
Power's awesome. I love that, especially compared to mine. I like that mine can lug up stuff. It can just tractor up whatever it wants to, but being able to see a bump in the road and just pop off of it is so much fun. Like I can't even. I have to clutch it really hard to get mine to do the same thing. Where with this one, I just...
Nice.